Hey, hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School, and I am up on. I think today's Sunday. I think it's Sunday. I'm not sure. I always lose track of the days. Um, since I got off the plantation, I don't really holidays and weekends. When you work for yourself, holidays and weekends don't usually mean as much as they used to, in the sense that you know that you don't need somebody's permission to kind of have a holiday or have a vacation. You gotta just do it whenever you want. And so I think today is Sunday. I think it's July 3rd. And I woke up and I was thinking about something that let's see here. I see Patrick says I can't hear you. If you can hear me online or can't hear me, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me because I want to make sure you can hear me. Uh, so say something. If you can hear me, just say I can hear you or something like that. Okay. So Michael says he can hear me just fine. So Patrick, I think you got to turn. Oh, okay. Patrick can hear me now. Okay. Maybe I got to pick the phone up or something. All right. So anyway, because I'm talking to you guys on Facebook Live, those of you who are seeing the recording elsewhere, just know that I go live on Facebook as well. Um, so what I wanted to kind of talk to you about today is the corporate plantation and just basically this place that we kind of are taught to believe that we have to go to and kind of pledge allegiance to in order to pay our bills and in order to survive economically at even a very basic level. What people don't really understand is that America's economic system has really changed a lot. There was a time, even when I was coming out of college, the system was a lot better than it is right now. When I was coming out of college, even though I came out in a recession, there were job opportunities, there were ways to make money that um, where you were working for somebody else, but it wasn't that horrible. Maybe the job was did stress you out a little bit, but there was decency, right? There was employment security. There was the expectation that one day you might be able to retire and make money, or be able to get paid even after you retire. There was a decent pay, like decent salary in terms of competition, and people want to bring you in. And also, there were plenty of jobs. And what I have found is, based on my research, and this is, I thought it was just my experience, but what I found based on research is that that things have really gotten worse. Things have really gotten worse for people that have chosen or ended up for whatever reason in the in the laboring class. The lower you are on the ladder, the worse it is for you. And so what I want to do is I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about some of this so you kind of understand this, because what people don't understand is that the stress that you feel when you go to work every day. I don't know if any of you have this kind of a job or not, but if you got that job where the commute is long, the boss is an asshole, the work, the hours are way too long, the pressure, the expectations, and the demands are insane. Um, you have to understand this takes a toll on your health. This isn't just something that where you just sort of feel like, like, oh well, it's just going to be hard and things are going to get better. For some people, it stays hard and it never gets better. You end up stressing yourself into the ground in order to simply pay your bills, in order to simply not be homeless. I think that that's a lot to go through in order to simply not be homeless. And I haven't even factored in the fact that you're black. I haven't even thrown that in. Being black by itself has been proven to have effects on your physical health. The stress of being black literally kills you. Stress is a killer. I want you to go research this. Go to Google. Google's free, and I want you to do a Google search, and I want you to look at the health effects of stress. So every time you feel yourself like I'm under pressure or this is driving me crazy, I want you to just kind of understand, like, this pressure that you're feeling. Sometimes it makes you stronger and better, but sometimes it just puts you closer to the grave, to your funeral. So let me what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a quick Google search on the health effects of stress, so you can kind of, and I'm just gonna look at what Google gives me. The health effects of stress on the body. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Here's Healthline. I'm finding an article on Healthline that gives 20 the effects of stress in the body. Stress has an immediate effect on your body in the short term, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. But chronic stress puts your health at risk. Now, here's some things that they lay out: headaches, can't sleep, depression, rapid breathing, pounding heart, high blood pressure, heart attack. It affects your liver, affects your blood, can give you heartburn, stomach aches, aching backs, irregular menstrual cycles. I ain't never had a menstrual cycle, but I hear that they're not fun, even when they work the way they're supposed to. Not in the mood, so that means that you can't. By the time you're working all day and you stressed out and you worried about the money, your sex life ain't gonna be what it's supposed to be. Your immune system is affected. Infertility. So the women have the menstrual cycle issue. The men and the women suffer from the infertility issues. There's a lot. There's a lot here. These are things I just found just by googling. Your central nervous system. They said that basically your central nervous system controls your fight or flight response. It instantly tells the rest of your body what to do, marshaling all resources to the cause. In the brain, the hypothalamus gets the ball rolling, telling your adrenal glands to release adrenaline and cortisol. When the perceived fear is gone, the central nervous system should tell all systems to go back to normal. It has done its job. If the central nervous system fails to return to normal, or if the stressor doesn't go away, it takes a toll on your body. So that means that if you go to work and your boss puts you in a panic because they're always stressing you out, and you got the same boss for 20 years, that means that you are spending 20 years of your life on high, on tilt, like on edge. That ain't good for you. The central nervous system is designed to be something that activates in emergency situations. You're not supposed to live your life in an emergency. Symptoms of chronic stress include irritability, anxiety, and depression. Have you ever felt irritable, like pissed off, just in a bad mood, maybe anxious, nervous, worried, or depressed about the job that you had? If you've ever felt this way, then you're showing the symptoms of these problems with the central nervous system, this chronic stress issue. You may suffer from headaches or insomnia, so head hurts, can't sleep. Um, Let me see here. Chronic stress is a factor in some behaviors like overeating, not eating enough, alcohol or drug abuse, or social withdrawal. Now, I've seen, and I haven't even gone, I'm not even going, I haven't gone through all of this. I mean, there's literally a ton of stuff. They're literally talking about how to fix your digestive system, your respiratory system, your cardiovascular system. What else? I'm looking down here. Your muscular system, sexuality and reproduction, your immune system. So basically, that job that you hate isn't just something that kind of gets on your nerves. It's something that literally, physically stamps on your nerves to the point where it may end up putting you in an early grave. This doesn't even count the fact that if you let's do an exercise. Let's do some math real quick. So let's say you work 8 hours a day, and you spend 8 hours those day 8 hours of every day at work. Think about how many hours that you're alive in a given day. You're alive for 24 hours a day. Everybody has the same 24 hours. And then let's take out 8 of those hours for sleep. Let's assume you're lucky enough to get 8 hours a night of sleep. So you got 16 hours of that day left. 10 out of 16. What is 10 out of 16? Let's do the math. 10 divided by 16. That's 62.5%. So if you spend 10 hours of your day at work, coming home from work, going to work, getting ready for work, winding down from work, and that's if you're lucky. A lot of people I know work 10 hours a day. If you spend 10 hours of your day doing this, you're literally spending 62.5% of your life dedicated to serving the corporate plantation, dedicated to serving this job, doing this job that's stressing you out, that's killing you, where the rewards are going to somebody else. You get your little paycheck, they get the bulk of your labor. Now, that's a good deal, I think, for lazy people. If you go to work and you ain't do nothing and they still pay you anyway, then that's a good deal. But if you work hard, if you're a person who's really, grinding for the job, and a lot of people have to do that just to keep the job, you're kind of getting screwed a little bit. You're kind of getting screwed. And then really, when you really add up the math, Take that 10 hours a day and multiply it by 5. That's 50 hours a week. Multiply that by 50 hours in a year, 2 weeks vacation. That's 2,500 hours a year. So that's 2,500 hours a year you're spending at the corporate plantation. You do that over a decade. That's 25,000 hours. You do that over a 40-year career. That's 100,000 hours. So that's 100,000 hours that you spent at the corporate plantation. That you spent serving a master. The difference is this master's paying you, so you don't see it as slavery because you're getting paid. But really, slavery has nothing to do with your compensation level. Slavery has to do with a lack of freedom. Are you allowed? Are you able to do what you want to do? So if you don't have the option to do what you want to do, then you're kind of stuck. I wouldn't say you're a slave because I don't want to disrespect the ancestors, but you're not free. You're certainly not free. And I think that's something we have to understand. Now, let's see here. Okay, so Kessie says she loves her job and she loves the job, and it's just the people that's there. Yeah, that's the way it is for a lot of people. I mean, when I taught at Syracuse University, I love my job. I love being a professor. I'm still a professor. I teach all the time. That's what I do. I just don't. I just didn't like the people. I was like, why are these white people being so mean? Like, what's wrong with these people? They're being mean to me for nothing. Like, they need to go on somewhere. And so the thing is that we have to kind of think about it in a different way. This conversation spurred in my head because I was talking to a young scholar, and one of the things we were talking about was, she doesn't like her job, and she was talking about how the pay of the jobs is really low, and I said, well, what are you going to do? What's your solution? She said, well, I'm gonna find a second job, and I said, so your solution to dealing with the job that you can't stand is to find another job you can't stand, so that you'll have two jobs that you hate, so you can just get by and pay the rent. And she said, I never thought of it that way. And I said, yeah, well, that's what I do, I guess. I guess what I'm good at is helping you see things in a way that maybe you might not have seen them before. Now, I wasn't belittling her situation. I wasn't trying to make her feel bad, but I said, I don't think you solve a problem by compounding it with another problem. It's like if you have a bad wife and you say, well, my solution to my bad wife is I'm gonna find another bad wife, so I have two bad wives. That's not really the solution. Maybe a solution is to find a better situation, either be single or find a better marriage or whatever, but don't keep going to the well, when it comes to solving your economic problems. And the thing is that there's a way that a free black person solves an economic problem, and then there's a way a corporatized or institutionalized black person solves an economic problem. An institutionalized person, unfortunately, and I was in that category for many years, so I'm not making fun of nobody if you're in this group. I'm just here to share and give you another point of view. You don't have to take it in. You don't have to absorb this. You don't have to believe me. I'm just going to lay this out here. You can make the decision as to whether or not it works for you. So the difference in the way that a free black person, solves a problem, versus the way an institutionalized black person solves a problem is very simple. And let me I'm gonna share this with you right after I reopen the Facebook Live. For some reason, Facebook Live just shuts down for no reason. I don't know why it does that. So let's see here. Let's see. Okay. All right. So I now put in the new Facebook Live, and I guess I can tell the people on Facebook if they I guess if you're on Facebook and you lose me again, just hit the refresh button and I'll just restart the stream. But the way an institutionalized black person solves a problem is they say, I need more money. So what does that mean? That means I either need to get a better job, I need to get a second job, I need to ask my boss for a raise on my job, I need to get a promotion on my job. And that's fine, but the thing is, you're solving that problem inside the confines of a particular method of kind of approaching your economic situation. It doesn't mean that can't work. It just means that it's kind of a one-dimensional solution. The way a free black person solves an economic problem is very different from the way an institutionalized person would do it. A free black person will say, I need more money. Maybe I can start another business. Maybe I can expand my existing business. Maybe I can cut some costs in my business. Maybe I can form a partnership. Maybe I can run a special or whatever, right? They're thinking as an entrepreneur. They're thinking about finding opportunities and turning those opportunities into further economic opportunities, as opposed to simply looking for somebody to create the opportunity for them and give them a job and give them a paycheck. And it's especially it's a special vulnerability for Black people because we're dealing with racism too, and economic systems tend to favor those who run the system. For example, in America, white people and rich people run the economic system. So the benefits tend to go toward rich people and white people. If you look at America's wealth gap, the wealth gap has grown over time because rich white people they're doing well. They're winning. They're winning. Poor people and Black and brown people are not winning. Um, Now I see we got some Mr. Duport from China. What's up, my man? Calling all the way from China, and it's late in China. It's like 10:33 out there, right, or 11:30, almost midnight. My man, up at midnight in China, getting knowledge. Got to respect. To see all you ladies who say there ain't no good Black men out here. Y'all need to go look at brothers like that. Let me see. Let me see if you like a lot of the young girls that I knew back in the day that I still see. Y'all not chasing the smart guys, the future Barack Obamas. Y'all chasing the thugs, the guys who look cool today, who got the nice cars and all the tattoos and got the rapper look. But then wait till you get about 35 or 40 and you've been married to this fool for a few years. You'll be chasing this guy down. You'll be this brother sitting in China. I don't even know what he's doing in China, but I know a young Black man in China is probably doing something interesting and important. He's probably doing something that's going to make sure that he's doing very well in the next 10 to 20 years. So make sure you've always got a 10, 20 year plan. In fact, I say this to my daughters, and I would say this to any ladies that are watching. I'm old school, right? So I got just enough sexism in it to let you know I'm a gentleman. I think that the roles of men are different from the roles of women. I don't care what nobody says. I don't believe men and women are the same. So I do sometimes speak with a mild gender bias, but in a way that I think favors women. In a way that I think a father should be talking. A father of daughters should be talking. So what I would say to ladies is, when you pick a man with a plan. Make sure you got a plan. If you ask him, if you kind of talk to him and he says, you say, well, what are you going to, what's your plan for the next 5, 10, 20 years? And he doesn't have anything to say. That's horrible. That means he's living moment by moment, day by day. He's hoping his success will come through luck. He's really hoping he's going to get lucky. And someday somebody's going to put $1 million in his lap. Because if you ask most people, what is your life going to be like in 20 years? They'll be like, I'm going to be rich. I'm gonna be rich. Well, how you gonna get rich? Um, 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 I don't know. Like, why are you so serious? Well, then, if you ain't got a plan, then you ain't gonna get there. You ain't gonna get there. You planning to disappoint yourself. You planning to disappoint everybody that you love. It's like if I tell you I'm going to California, you say, well, how do you get there? And I'm like, I don't know. You got a car, Boyce? No, I ain't got no car. Okay, so you got any gas money? Like, what, you save any money up? What did you do to get ready for the trip? Oh no, I just know one day I'm gonna go to California. I'm gonna just be there. No, you can't do that. It doesn't work. If a man doesn't have a plan, don't mess with him, ladies. Don't do it. His plan, the only plan he got right now is to get in your panties. That's his plan. He got the panty plan, and that's it. Now, ain't nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're a brother that likes sex, ain't nothing wrong with it. But I personally believe men have to earn sex. They should earn the right. I tell my daughters, I say men should earn the right to sleep with you. You can't just give it to anybody on the corner because they gave you a lollipop. But then again, though, hey, and Letitia says females should have their own plans as well. Absolutely, I teach that to my daughters too. You need to have a plan, because I tell them too. I say, look, if you do find the right man, you got to be able to identify him, but you got to be the right woman. If you ain't the right woman, then don't expect the right man. And that's one thing I've observed with some young people, male and female, is the lack of ability to engage in critical analysis of yourself. The lack of ability, everybody can look out at the world and point out what's wrong with the world, and these dudes ain't shit, and these women ain't nothing or whatever. But what about you? What about you? What are you doing to make yourself a better partner? What are you doing? If all your relationships are going to hell, are going to shit, that means there's probably something wrong with you. And if you got friends around you who are all telling you it ain't your fault, those ain't really your friends. They're not helping you. That's like if I go and I get fired from 8 jobs in a row, I can't sit there and be like, well, these companies, these corporations, look at what they're doing wrong, blah, blah, blah. No, there's some there's some introspection that must occur if my goal is to get another job. Now, if I don't ever want a job, Again, like if you used to date, and you're a woman that used to date men, and now you just date women, or you don't date nobody, then there's no reason to engage in any sort of introspection. But if you're trying to go back to making those choices and making partnerships with other people, you've got to figure out what makes you a good partner, what can make you a good partner. Because I get tired of these shows where I watch, and it's another thing. This is more in support of the brothers, but I get tired of these shows where they constantly talk about all these black women that can't find a good black man. No, I see a lot of good black men. I see a lot of decent dudes who get shit on, by people who take advantage of that or don't see the value that they offer. Because I mean, in fact, when I look at, I'll give you one example. I look at a guy like Future, the rapper, and I know why women are attracted to Future. He's tall, he's handsome, he's famous, he's rich, and he's probably got some swag. But Future got a bunch of babies mamas, and so to me, it's like why would a guy like that be more attractive than a guy, another handsome guy who works hard for his future, who's serious about building for his family, who's serious about making intelligent decisions with his life, who doesn't just think he's going to live forever by making a bunch of songs where he's mumbling over a hot beat, and that's all he's doing, thinking about, bitches and hoes and all this other stuff. I mean, seriously, I'm not dissing him entirely. I'm not saying Future's not worthy of love. I mean, God bless him or whatever, but seriously, I mean, and you see even with Serena, what is she, or Serena, not Serena, I said Serena, Sierra, I'm thinking Serena. Sierra, what does she do? She bounced away from Future. Now she's with that guy Russell Wilson or whatever his name is, that plays for the Seahawks, and he seems like a better pick. He's also a handsome guy. He's also a strong man, but he seems to have different value systems. He's an intelligent man. So I just, again, I'm not gonna go too far into this because I think relationship stuff. I don't want to push too many of my value systems on it, but I definitely think anybody, generally speaking, any partnership you make in life, partnerships have the same dynamics, whether you're talking about relationships or business partnerships. The dynamics all are all kind of the same. They all come into play. And basically, for any partnership, the things you want to look for are kind of consistent across the board. When I'm forming a business partnership, I don't want to work with people who don't plan for the future. I don't want to work with people who don't have a good work ethic. I don't want to work with people who don't have any integrity. I don't want to work with people who don't know responsibility. I don't want to work with anybody who can't bring nothing to the table. I don't want to work with anybody who's going to destroy what I built. And so the thing about love and sex is that you have the temptation of physical attraction that can cause you to deviate from rational choices when it comes to who you bring into your life. That's why most of us, myself included, can tell a story or two about how you dated somebody where you knew you had no business with that person, but they just looked so good to you that you couldn't turn them down. Love, sex, and Mother Nature are a bitch. They are, you're talking about millions of years of evolution that led you to be attracted to that thing and that person that you know is not good for you. So the best way to avoid bad situations in relationships is to avoid those people altogether. And I went through this as I got more prominent, if you will. When you're on TV and people think you got money and people think you're kind of famous, people treat you a certain way. Things change, and women suddenly, a lot of women that normally wouldn't have gave you the time of day suddenly think you're incredibly handsome, and that's a benefit, it's a privilege, it's a blessing. I'm not going to ever say this is a bad thing, but I'm going to say it's certainly something that you have to look at in moderation, because for men, there are four things I've noticed that bring down men. That were great men that have been brought down. They're usually brought down by one of these four things. And I talk about this actually in an audio book I did called The 8 Principles of Black Male Empowerment. You can go check it out. Look up The 8 Principles of Black Male Empowerment. It's give it to your sons as like a graduation gift or something. It doesn't cost that much. And it's basically 8 rules that a black man should follow if he wants to be successful in life, if he wants to avoid landmines. The 4 things that get men in trouble tend to be sex, drugs, alcohol, and gambling. Sex, drugs, alcohol, and gambling. And if you ask my dad, he always said being a gambling addict is worse than being an alcoholic or a drug addict. I don't know, but I would definitely say, but I've seen more men get in trouble over sex than anything, because women and men both have drive, but I think there's something very different about the nature of the drive, where you see a lot of men getting a lot more trouble over sex than women do, even though women make mistakes too. We know that. But generally speaking, I think if you engage in those 4 things, which most of us might do at some point, everything has to be done in moderation. Everything has to be seen in moderation, because if you take anything to an extreme, you end up putting yourself and your future at risk, in jeopardy. You end up jeopardizing everything you've got. You look at Bill Clinton. He was the president of the United States, and he's up there, getting blowjobs in the Oval Office. He probably could have got a blowjob at a hotel, right? I mean, why in the Oval Office? So anyway, One thing I see this question from Ward. I love it. Ward is our resident white guy. Ward he's a white male, and I love this. He said, "Is it disrespectful as a white male to ask how I can be part of the solution?" Well, just the fact that you put the word disrespectful as the third word in your sentence makes me respect you a lot back. And the reason I say this is because I think that if you notice, black people are very open and forgiving and loving people. Most of us will, we don't know the hatred that racist white people know. Like we don't know what it means to really hate somebody just based on the color of your skin. Usually black people, even the black people I know that hate white people, it comes from a set of horrible experiences they had where they literally had never met a white person who ever treated them with decency. Malcolm X, all of his father and all of his father's brothers were murdered by whites, and his whole family was destroyed by white people. So he really didn't even know what a good white man was supposed to even look like, if they even existed. But white folks, the fact that they can look at a gentle, kind, I mean, I'm talking about, if you go back, especially like in the 40s, 50s, the fact that they can look at a gentle, kind, peace-loving black person who goes to church and is nice to them and say, I want to kill you, I want to cut your balls off, I want to cut the baby out of your stomach. That's a mental illness. That's insane. That's a type of savagery that we don't even understand. I can't imagine looking at an innocent person and finding pleasure in seeing that person hanging from a tree. Like bringing my kids like it's a damn picnic. I can't imagine that. That's a level of insanity that I will never understand. The only thing I can compare it to is maybe the joy somebody might have of watching a pig get roasted before you're about to eat it, right? People had a pig roast, and they would, they're looking at, and you think about this, you're looking at a pig, like the pig is like, what the hell? He's like sitting on this stick, and he's getting cooked, and it's traumatic for him, it's horrible for the pig, but for us, we're happy because we're about to eat. Right, it's a festive occasion. It's like, man, who gives a fuck about the pig? Right, that's the mentality that we have. So my only comparison that I can think of that I would connect it to is maybe for white people, we were like the roast pig. There was a sport to it, And if you look through our history, white men have always had those sports where they'll go shoot a buffalo or a deer or whatever, or a lion, and take pleasure in seeing the lion's head up on the wall. Like, look at this lion I killed. So to me, it's the same thing. Look at this nigga I killed. Right. And that's the only thing I can think of. So somehow they were indoctrinated to believe we were less than human, and that's the battle, right? Imagine if you're a human being and somebody thinks you're nothing but a roast pig. How can you be friends with that person? How can you even trust that person on any level? How can you even go in that environment and feel like you can even let your guard down without worrying about them, somehow turning white on you, getting nasty on you, and that actually caused an issue with me. I used to get I would always be on edge when I'm talking to certain kinds of white people, because I'd be like, okay, now, I'm a strong black man. I don't take well to being treated like somebody's boy. So you turn white on me, you start acting crazy white, we're gonna have a problem. So I'm sitting there like, okay, when's it gonna come out? And that's the problem, right? So at this point, I'm contributing to the problem because I'm looking for something. I'm looking for that trigger, and I don't want to do that, but I have to keep my guard up, because I get all friendly. I'm thinking, oh, we're friends, we all like each other, and then you say some dumb shit, and then suddenly my feelings get hurt. My self-esteem is affected, especially if I'm a young black man. I'm like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe something is wrong with me, and I just don't think that's healthy for our kids, and it drives me crazy. So what I like about Ward's question is that Ward started off by saying, is it disrespectful? And that right there is a sign of respect. That means he's like, look, I know I'm in a black space. I'm around black people. I'm going to show respect to them and understand empathy. And I appreciate that, man. So you can be part of the solution. I don't get into the idea that every white person has to be rejected. I think good people are good people, and I think that you can be part of the solution. I think understanding what's going on, understanding our point of view, sharing that with other people, stopping racism when you see it, understanding structural racism. Structural racism is the big enemy. It's not just oh, I don't like him because he's black. Man, I don't care about that. I don't care if you call me a nigga. It might offend me, but it's not that big of a deal. That's not going to keep me from building a business, getting a job, feeding my family, or doing what I got to do. There's dumbass white people everywhere. So if a poor white trash lady gets mad at me and says, oh, you dumb nigger, I don't care. It doesn't matter. She has no power over me. But if my boss, If I'm working in a company and my boss is treating me that way or thinking about me that way, that's an issue because that affects my ability to provide for the people I love. That's where structural racism becomes a problem because most of our bosses are white. Um, by the way, let's take a quick break real quick. I want to remind you guys, if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, I want you to write down this URL. Write down drboycewatkins.net. Go to drboycewatkins.net, not .com, .net, and you can get a free copy of my book. I hope you'll get it. It's good. It's really good. It's very short, but I want you to read it. I want you to share it with people. I want other people to read it. Also, I want you to take this feed. If you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, take the feed and share it to your page. If you feel like this information is helpful to you and you want other people to learn, each one teach one. So take it and share it, and please become the teacher that other people need. And the third thing I'll say to you is that if you are looking for ways to get off the corporate plantation, we have the Black Wealth Bootcamp, which is very, very popular. People love it. You can learn about that at theBlackWealthBootcamp.com. That's theBlackWealthBootcamp.com. And we actually have a temporary special this weekend where you can actually get in for 25% off the cost of tuition. So just use the discount code NOSLAVE, one word, no slave, N-O slave. And just go take a look, check it out. And in fact, we actually have an affiliate program where if you like any of the things that we sell, you can actually sell them yourself to other people and get a commission from that. A big commission. It's very generous. It's 30%. The lady told me I should only do 10 or 15, but I was like, no, let's do 30. I want everybody to like share the wealth. So basically, it's at theblackcommercenetwork.com. So if you go to theblackcommercenetwork.com, you can sign up for that too. All right. So let me see here. I'm gonna jump in and grab a couple more questions. All right. So let's get back to some of the. Okay. So Larry says Ward sounds like a white man that understands the plight of the black man. Hell yeah, Ward is the homie. And let me tell you why I know Ward is cool. Ward is cool. How many white people gonna be on a page called Black Knowledge? I'm live streaming from a page called Black Knowledge. It's very, very black. It's unapologetically black. On this page, Black Lives Matter, and that's pretty much all that matters. This is a black world. So Ward is hanging out on Black Knowledge. Hey man, you are cool with me, Ward. You come to my house, I'm gonna give you some chitlins, or not chitlins. I don't need chitlins. I'm gonna give you some soul food. You come to my crib, some healthy soul food. Baba says Ward could be a spy. Yeah, he could be, but shit, Baba, you could be a spy too. The good spies ain't gonna come as white men. The good spies gonna come in with a name like Baba, pretending to be black, pretend to be super black, right? I'm playing. I'm messing with you, Baba. I know you're not a spy, brother. Okay, so let's jump in and let's keep talking about this job issue. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually grab an article that I want to kind of cite some stuff for you with because I want you to kind of understand this, just kind of like why you want to kind of think about the way you structure your economic life, and how you do that, how you make your money is as important as the amount of money you make. People think that's a problem for black folks. A lot of black folks have been trained to believe that you should get money however, right? Take money from whoever. And that's a very bad philosophy when it comes to money. I mean, imagine if you had a daughter who was 16 and you told your daughter, girl, you get that money, you take it from whoever gives it to you. That's very bad advice as a father. You don't want to tell your daughter to do that. And so ultimately, when you're preparing your children for how they're going to survive in the economic system or preparing yourself, a couple of things you want to keep in mind is, is that when you go into the economic system, the game's kind of rigged against you a little bit if you're black, because the system is run by rich white men. So it's going to be running a way that benefits them more than it benefits you. That ain't your house. Just like I did a live stream yesterday with Damon Dash. He's actually on a new BET show that I heard is really good called Music Moguls. And he said I would never move into another man's house and think that I have the ability or the right to tell him what to do with his house or to tell him to move around his furniture. So, when you go into an economic system that's designed by white folks, that's kind of their system. It doesn't mean you don't belong there. It doesn't mean you can't be in it, but it means you got to be very cautious and understand what you're dealing with. And setting those expectations is important because if you don't, you're gonna be disappointed. Your feelings are gonna get hurt. I'll give you an example. I had a real good friend who went and he was a professor at a school in the South, and it's funny. Now, I grew up in the South. I know how racist some white people can be. And so I kind of always knew, like, look, I'm not going to get a fair shake from some of these people. I already know that. But he didn't understand that. He was from the North. where he really thought that everybody would be treated fairly if they're good at their job, if they're, if they're decent people and all this other stuff. So I remember he would always complain to me every time we talked. He'd be like, Boyce, let me tell you what these white people are doing. Well, that son of a bitch, he knows I deserve that teaching award. They give it to the white guys, and my ratings were better than his, and he gets the teaching award, and I never got one. And then it got to the point where it got real drastic, where he was like, Boyce, if I see that son of a bitch, I'm gonna kick him in his fucking face. I'm gonna fuck him up. And I was like, okay, man. I said, look, this racism is causing you to lose your mind. You're literally getting to the point where I'm worried about you, because this amount of stress can't be good to carry around. I said, you're repeating the same story. You've been repeating the same damn story for years. You're talking about us physically assaulting somebody on the job. I said, now I understand that. I've had many fantasies when I was on the plantation. I had many fantasies about jumping across the desk and busting my boss in his face. I've thought about that on many occasions, but the fact that you're so redundant about it, and the fact that you almost sound like you're going to do it, means that this is not a healthy environment for you. And so what I realized between me and my friend is that the difference was, he wasn't used to that. He really thought that if he came into this white university and did what white people told him to do, or did his job well, he thought they were going to treat him fairly, that they were going to give him the same promotions and raises as white people. I never felt that way. I keep my expectations very low in some situations, because I don't need to feel, I'm not going to get my hopes up that you're going to take care of me. I put my high expectations on myself. I know that I'm going to take care of me. And I also know this, and this is something I said to a young scholar I was talking to, but it applies to anybody, any hardworking person with any kind of skill that can add value to a business. I said, look, I know how much torture it was for you to get your PhD and finish your dissertation. Your dissertation was complete hell. And anybody, and that's one of the reasons why I just laugh at these little fake PhDs, these people that got these honorary doctors running around calling themselves doctor. You ain't no real doctor, because you ain't been through the hell of what it takes to do a dissertation. There's real, so just notice, when somebody calls themselves doctors, some of these people ain't real doctors. Ask them, where'd you get your degree? What did you study? Etc. And then try maybe find out how many years they spent. Some people spent less than a year and claim they have a PhD. My stuff took a decade between master's work and everything else. It was very difficult. And I said, I know how much torture you went through to get this thing. And I said, and you did all this, and now you've got a job that you don't like, and you're not making very much money. I said, now it probably takes less work and less torture to learn how to start a business, and become a really good entrepreneur than it takes to do a dissertation. I said, it's a lot easier to learn how to be a great entrepreneur than it is to learn how to kiss somebody's ass for 20 years straight, or 10 years, or whatever, right? Kissing ass is hard work. It's stressful. You got to figure out where the ass is at, and how high it is, and follow them around. I mean, that's hard work. Kissing ass is hard work. It's so why not take that energy and put that into learning how to build something of your own? I really say, one saying I just kind of came up with in my head was, I said, I think entrepreneurship should be like the new MBA for black people. Entrepreneurship is like, so everybody's trying to get these degrees, like, oh, if I get my master's in this, I'm gonna make more money. If I get my bachelor's in that, I'll make more money. That's cool. Do all of that. But the first thing you should do, and I told her this, I said, the first thing your black son needs to know how to do before he goes to college is make sure that boy learns how to start a business. Have him spend 400 or 500 hours, which is a fraction of the time he'll spend learning the white man's economic system. Spend 400 or 500 hours doing nothing but learning how to start a business, working on a business, learning how to make money his own way, so he has a plan B. You do not send your child to their oppressor and have them depend on their oppressor to be able to eat or to have access to their masculinity. Because the fact of the matter is that when you don't have any other options, you make yourself incredibly vulnerable. And that's you shouldn't even do that when you're dealing with people who like you. You shouldn't even become overly dependent on people who love you, like your parents. Like, you shouldn't be 30 years old depending solely on your parents to provide for you. And these are your parents love you. So if you shouldn't even be solely dependent on your parents to provide for you, Should you be solely dependent on white people to provide for you? Because white people ain't gonna love you like your parents do. In fact, white people don't love you at all, not as a collective. Look at their policies. Look at the way they treat you all. Look at the things that they do to us, and look at the things that they overlook. See, it's not just what they do; it's what they don't respond to. You know, the torture you can go through that they literally have no sensitivity toward. Why? Well, because you grown. You in a grown you in a big boy world where ain't nobody got time to be worried about your plight. White people ain't got time. White people worry about their own plights. White people torture each other enough. They're fighting each other. They ain't got time to be sitting around saying, "Oh, well, what's going on with the black community? Maybe we can help those poor people. Those poor people need our support." Are you doing that for them? Like, are you sitting around saying, "Oh, well, white people need us. They need our help. We feel bad for the poor white people. Let's go take care of poor white people." They're not doing that. So I just really think that taking care of yourself is really important. And part of taking care of yourself is knowing how to have a plan B, knowing how to have options. Tommy Breeden. He's mentioned. He says that's what it's about, having options. That's all it is. That's what freedom is. Freedom is options. Period. I bet if I look up options, it's gonna say freedom. If I look up freedom, it's gonna say options. I'm kidding. It probably won't. But literally in finance, in fact, we actually had a whole area of finance called option pricing theory. Option pricing theory, where we talked about options and what options are from the core. And so it's real interesting to see options defined from a financial standpoint versus options defined from a practical standpoint, right? It's the same idea though. Options basically comes down to, in finance, the right but not the obligation to do something by a certain time or a certain date, right? So basically, to the financial version of an option has more to do with buying and selling an asset by a certain price at a certain date. But if you look deeper in the theory, what you find is that it's a universal idea. And one of the fundamental rules of options in finance, and this is something that's mathematically proven, is that an option can never have a negative value. An option can never have a negative value. It will either be zero or positive. And what does that mean? That means that you are never worse off when you have more options. You are never worse off when you have more options. Now, you can be better off by having more options, but you can be worse off by losing options, but you will be never worse off by having more options. So what I would say to you is teach your kids to always have options. When you have options, you breathe easier. There's less stress. You don't become as obsessed over what somebody else is doing and what somebody else ain't doing for you, right? When I had options that allowed me to have my own economic system that took me off the white man's titty, I wasn't as mad about what he was doing. I don't get me wrong, racism still upsets me. I'll still talk about it, but I'm not mad about what he's doing to me because he ain't really doing nothing to me. I don't really work with white people that much, but if I didn't have any options, if all I had was that job and that was all I depended upon, I'd be so mad. I probably would have lost my mind. I probably wouldn't be talking to y'all right now. I'd be drinking. I'd be in the liquor bottle. I'd be with a liquor bottle watching Netflix, cussing, getting pissed off because of what some white guy didn't do for me. Seriously. So you gotta have options. Always create options. Now, real quick, a quick reminder for those who just tuned in. I want you to go to drboycewatkins.net, not .com, drboycewatkins.net. You can get a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, A New Paradigm for Black America. I wrote that book, and it's a short, easy read. I wrote that book right during the time that I did a really powerful forum with Minister Louis Farrakhan in Chicago, where he and I spent 3 hours talking to a nice crowd about these four principles. I asked him, I said, Minister, would you give me the honor of joining me to discuss these four concepts: wealth, education, family, and community? And he agreed, which I thought was very graceful of him. And so we each discussed these issues from our own perspective. So the wisdom in this DVD is something unlike anywhere else you're going to find. And so I wrote the book, and the DVD is actually for sale out there. It's out there. If you look it up, look up Boyce Watkins Louis Farrakhan DVD, and you can find it somewhere. I don't have the URL, but if you want the book, I'm giving the book away for free as an ebook for a while because I want 100,000 people at least to read it. And so go to drboycewatkins.net. You can get a free e-copy of the book. Also, if you want to join our Black Wealth Bootcamp, we start August 4th. So we have a new class coming up. The Black Wealth Bootcamp is better than any college class that you've ever taken in your life. And I can show you. I can show you a screen right now. I can't find it. I got to pull it up on my computer. But I can show you guys a screen right now of the comments, just random comments the students made in the last boot camp. And every comment is incredibly positive. Every comment is like, this changed my life. This was better than anything I ever did in school. And all we really ask is that you give us the same opportunity that you give white folks when you pay them $100,000 to learn from their university, when they have the same credentials, but they can't teach you the things that we can teach you. They can't teach you business from a black perspective because most of them don't have black professors. They can't teach you how to build a company because most business school professors have never built a company. They also are going to charge you a ton of money. So the boot camp is much cheaper than that. In fact, this weekend only, if you use the discount code No Slave, that's one word, No Slave, N-O slave, no slave, you can get 25% off the cost of tuition. So give it a try. You're going to love it. There's also a money back guarantee, so there's no risk to you. If you don't like it, just let us know and we'll give you your money back. But like I said, we don't even worry about that because the instances where that occurs are very low. And in many cases, people get the money back because they just can't afford it, or they pay for it and they get hit with another bill and they say, okay, I need my money back, and we do that. So give it a try. I think you're going to love it. People put their kids in our program. We also have a program for children, actually, called Black Millionaires of Tomorrow at blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Kids love that as well. And these programs are all designed specifically for black people. We don't design them for anybody else. We have some people that join. I'm sure at some point some white person is going to join, and I'm okay with that. Maybe Ward's going to join. He might be our first white guy. But see, Ward already downloaded the ebook. So Ward trying to be down. See, I'm gonna start calling you Rachel Dolezal in a minute, man. You keep on doing this, but it's all good. I'm okay with that because I think that I respect anybody who wants to understand our perspective and our experience. Because here's the thing: other people study black people all the time. They study us constantly because they always want to steal our style. They always want to be like us. Everybody wants to be black except for when it's time to be black. There are so many people around the world who look at black people as kind of the beacons of light when it comes to everything from style and music to activism. Look at how many people have imitated the civil rights movement around the world, to promote their own agenda, right? So I truly believe that what makes you the attention of so many people is that you're so special. You're so amazing. You have these abilities that have passed down through generations that make you different from everybody else. I'm not gonna say superior because that's going to upset some people, but I'm gonna say this. You are the descendants of the survivors of the Middle Passage, which was one of the worst atrocities in all of human history. You're the survivors of that. So, survival of the fittest. If you look at life even on a microscopic level, the bacteria in the hospital that survives the antibiotics is always the strongest bacteria that there is. So when they come in and try to exterminate the bacteria and do genocide on all the bacteria, the ones who survive the genocide are the ones that they cannot kill. Black people have been under assault from various genocidal initiatives even before we arrived on slave ships. First, they tried to kill you in the Middle Passage. It killed some of us, but not all. Then they committed the atrocity of slavery, which was a Holocaust for us. 250 years of the worst slavery known in all of human history. We survived that too. Then they did Jim Crow. They're lynching you around every corner, destroying you spiritually, physically, economically, psychologically, etc. Many of us survived that. Then they did mass incarceration, where they're taking the strongest black men in our communities and locking them up for 100 years over minor petty crimes. You survived that too. So you're amazing in that way. And that's part of what makes people fear you so much. When black people really put our minds to anything, we always become the very best in the world at that thing. The problem, though, is that because we've been kind of locked down. Now, Chucks wants to know the website for the book again. Go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net, N-E-T. So go check it out, Chucks. I think you're going to love it. The thing is that because of the box you've been kept in, psychologically and otherwise, we tend to apply our excellence in a very small number of very limited areas. We apply that excellence to things that don't always matter. Learning the latest dance and being the best dancer in your school doesn't always matter. But you have a lot of kids that will get to the age of 18, can't read, can't write, can't do math, but they can do the Dougie, the Nene, the bop, whatever the dance is that year. They know the dances really well, or they can tell you, they can recite every song on the radio. If you talk about sports, too many of us overinvest in sports. And that's because there are systems that are designed to incentivize young black males to overinvest in sports. So that's why you get these young kids that swear they're going to be the next LeBron James, even though there can only be one LeBron. So you get one LeBron and you get a million guys who try to be LeBron. Well, what happens to those million? Like, where are they going to go? Where are their skills going to be marketable to the point where they can make a living? You can't make a living by having a killer jump shot unless you make it to the NBA, right? So ultimately, what I have seen is that that work ethic, that energy that we put into things that don't matter, we don't always put it into the things that do matter. Education matters. Technology, understanding technology matters. 80% of the world's wealth in the last 2 years was generated in Silicon Valley. Tracy's asking, do I plan on coming to California anytime soon? Yes, Tracy. In 4 days, I'm going to Los Angeles, where we're going to finish shooting our film, Steel Justice. And also, Damon Dash and I are releasing a film called Too Honorable, that's coming out soon. It's Dame's creation, but I'm an executive producer along with Kanye West, and Kanye gave us the music. The soundtrack on the film is absolutely dope. We have some really interesting people in the film. It's honestly it's like an urban type of drama. Again, it's Dame's creation, but I'm an executive producer in the sense that he wanted me to kind of bring in my perspective to kind of he in Dame's words, he says, I want you to make it smart. That's what he basically that's what he said when to BET when for his show Music Moguls, they filmed our screening for the film, and BET was there, and he said, I wanted Dr. Watkins to help make it smart. So I'm an investor in the film as well, and it's interesting. It's got anybody who follows battle rap, you might know Murder Mook. Murder Mook is right now the undisputed heavyweight champion in all of battle rap. He beat what was that brother's name? You got to remind me the brother's name. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but he always sometimes he wears a suit. I should know his name. I hate this, but anyway. But Murder Mook is in it. Cameron is actually a really good actor. Cameron is charismatic on screen. If I could have rewrote the script, I would have been like, put Cameron on screen more, because I think he did a great job. Who else is in the film? Dame is in the film. Loaded Lux. Thank you, Ty Star. See, I knew it was right on the tip of my tongue. I just couldn't remember his name. He's very good. Loaded Lux. He's not in the movie though. Murder Mook is. Smoke Dizza. And of course, Dame is in it. And actually, he made the movie as a tribute to his OG, a guy named Daniel, that went to prison for 25 years. And when Daniel got out, Dame made this movie, and it's centered around him, and he made him the star. And this guy killed it. This guy I was like, you sure he's not an experienced actor? I said, he's a fast learner, because his brother, he really carries his role very, very well. I was extremely impressed with that. So we're going to do the world premiere of the film in Los Angeles. I can't tell you the distributor, but we did make a deal with the company. They're going to distribute it. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I don't know what that means. I still have to learn about film distribution, but I know that they're paying some money for the movie, and so we think it could be a big deal. We're gonna push it out in LA, and then also what else is happening in LA? I'm gonna do some stuff out in California, in Oakland, with Zaza Ali. Zaza's controversial. Some people love her, some people hate her. I judge people based on my experience with them. Even with Damon Dash, I had people tell me different stories, one way or the other, good and bad. And I said, well, I'm hearing everything. I listen to everything. I'm not stupid, but I'm not going to judge somebody based on what somebody else said. I don't do that. I'll take heed of it. I'll pay attention. But until I've seen you do something around me that concerns me, I'm not going to judge you on that. So anyway, so with Zaza Ali, I think she's a very smart lady. And so I'm gonna do stuff with her. Also, I'm gonna see her nemesis, Tariq Nasheed. Tariq and I we partner on Hidden Colors 4. We actually the Black Business School is actually selling Hidden Colors 4 if you want to go buy it. It comes with a bundle pack where you get a free class in the Black Business School, e-copies of 4 of my books, as well as this really good lecture where Tariq explains how he built his company, which I think is probably the most valuable part of the package. The movie's great. I'm in the movie, so of course it's good because I'm in it. I'm kidding. But the movie's great. But I really think what's really more important is when you see somebody that's successful, you want to get the blueprint. One of the things that makes Damon Dash unique from an intellectual standpoint, for example, is whenever we've done anything, he always, like we do an interview or if we go on a show or if he sees somebody else's operation, he always asks questions. He's always curious about what it takes to build a company like that. He'll say, well, how do you make your revenue? How do you get your subscribers? How do you set up your technology? Like he'll ask those questions, and that's what you want to do. You want to be a sponge. So anyway, where was it? Why did I bring that up? I hate when I lose my train of thought. But the point is, like, so when you understand, if you live in an information society, make sure you're always a sponge. Your knowledge and your education shouldn't just end when you leave school. And that's why I brought it up, because Tariq Nasheed. So you shouldn't just celebrate Tariq's success. I believe Hidden Colors 4 is going to make over $10 million. I think it's going to be amazing. But while you celebrate his success, figure out how you can build something of your own, your own baby Wall Street, your own baby version of whatever it is that you see that you really admire, because you can do it too. I don't think there's anything different for us versus any of you. I just think that maybe we've channeled in on our talents a little bit more. Maybe we work a little bit harder. Damon and I get along because neither one of us pays attention to weekends and holidays. We both work every day of the week because we love what we do. We're both passionate about what we do. We both are willing to take a risk. We're both willing to put up our own money and do things a lot of people don't do. A lot of people will take a chance as long as the risk doesn't fall on them, or as long as they don't have to put up their own money. And I don't really know if that's always a winning strategy. But anyway, if you want to buy Hidden Colors from us and get the bundle pack, you can go to hiddencolorsbundlepack.com. That's hiddencolorsbundlepack.com. If you want to order the whole series, you can go to hiddencolors1234.com. Hiddencolors1234.com. Those are the four, just the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And that was actually a call on my phone from Dr. Claude Anderson, the author of Powernomics, which is a great book, as well as Black Labor, White Wealth. You should go check out those books. I need to call Dr. Anderson back, so I probably have to run in a second. But I'm going to answer a few more questions before I give Dr. Anderson a call back. Charles says, when will you be close to North Carolina? We're going to go to Charlotte soon, Charles. What we had to do is we had to put the tour on hold a little bit because, number one, I realized that it was a lot harder than I thought to go to all those cities. I was actually tired. I didn't come home for, almost 2.5, 3 months. And so I said, I need to go home and recharge my batteries. Plus, the other thing I learned, this was what I learned. All of us are learning constantly. And one thing I learned is that tours are expensive as hell, because you got to pay a lot of money up front. If it's sponsored by somebody, a white man writes you a big check, then it's easy. But when you're paying your own money and we pay our own bills, it's a huge capital investment. So as we pick the tour back up, I'm going to stack some bread, make sure we've got plenty of cash flow available so that we can go ahead and move forward with the tour. Because what happened was we were making 2 movies and doing the tour at the same time, plus running our operation. Bad move. But the thing about it, though, is even though it was a bad move on my part, it was a trial by fire. I can tell you I haven't learned more in a shorter amount of time in terms of business than I did when I made that move. So sometimes when you take the plunge, it's like Steve Harvey said this on the air, and I agree with that. I don't like everything Steve Harvey says. Y'all know that, because that whole thing, I don't give a damn about slavery. That comment really made me angry. But one thing he said that I really liked was he said, you got to believe in your gift. He said, go ahead, jump off the cliff. And he said, and you might hit your head on a rock. He said, when you hit your head on the rock, you get up and you dive again. And that's, I'm not saying you should just throw caution to the wind, but I do think there's something to be said about that. Usually about 95% of the things you are afraid of are figments of your imagination. The vast majority of what scares you is not even real. In fact, in many cases, you can literally go through something that truly represents your worst nightmare or the worst thing that could ever happen to you. And guess what? You don't die. You pick up, you're stronger, you learn a hard lesson, you don't make the same mistake again, but you just come back and you try it in a better way. You're wiser and better because you went through the adversity. Most people I know who are successful have gone through adversity. Think about it. It makes sense. Most people who are great athletes, who are in great shape, went through physical adversity. They had to go through some pain to get in great shape. Most people who are the smartest people I know had to go through some pain. They went through a rigorous, difficult academic program that made them smart and strong and sharp. The reason that I'm not intellectually intimidated by anybody. I could go on the biggest television network in the world and debate the smartest people on the planet, any Nobel Prize winner, and not feel the least bit intimidated. Why? Well, because I have intellectual confidence, which came from the fact that I went through absolute academic hell. I went through adversity. I had nights where I couldn't sleep, was crying at my desk damn near, was frustrated, punching walls, depressed, mad, whatever, and had to keep getting back up and keep going if I wanted to reach my goal. And after I went through all of that, all the hell, I came out a warrior. I came out strong. So if you want to come out strong, you got to go through some stuff. And the hard part is that sometimes, we don't choose to go to battle. We get sucked in. We have to be sucked into the battle for us to learn how to fight. So, for example, it'd be nicer though if you learn how to just run to the battle. If it's a battle worth fighting, maybe you should volunteer instead of being drafted. Because for me, what I'll say is that I became a strong entrepreneur, an economic survivor, because I was kind of forced into that situation. Who knows? Maybe if white people had been nicer to me and gave me the cushy job, maybe I never would have, explored the idea of being an entrepreneur. So I had to kind of get pulled into the fight as opposed to choosing the fight. If I had a son or a daughter again, or even when I talk to my daughter, I tell my kids, choose the fight. Choose the fight now. Don't wait to be pulled into it, because you may never be pulled into it. And sometimes getting what you want is not what you really need, right? It's like, have you ever had that situation where you really were attracted to somebody and you wanted a relationship with them so bad, you fantasized about them, you had a crush on them, you obsessed over them, and you wanted them so bad, and they didn't want you, and then you ended up with somebody better anyway, or you were rejected by somebody that you would have given anything to stay with, and then you found a better person later. Well, a lot of times, if you look on that situation, getting what you wanted at the time wouldn't have been what you needed. It wouldn't have been the best thing for you. So sometimes not getting what you want puts you in a far better situation. So, when I didn't get what I wanted and I had to learn how to provide for myself, I had to learn how to make my own money. It made me a man that I never dreamed that I could become. It made me a man with I have a lot of intellectual confidence and a lot of economic confidence. Like I don't really have a fear of white people anymore. I don't really care what they think about me. I don't care if they don't like me. I know how to, I'm not scared. Oh my God, I got a new show, or I got a TV show, and if I say this, I'm gonna get fired or whatever. I don't care about that. Like they can't really take away a lot of the things that I have. Now, mind you, there are always ways that people can be attacked. I'm not gonna say anybody's beyond reproach. I'm not saying that at all. But what I will say is that there are some of us who are more vulnerable than others. And I would say that when you train your kids to walk right into the belly of the beast, just understand that he's going to be trying to survive inside the stomach of the beast that wants to eat him anyway, that wants to destroy him. So, so let's just be smart about that. Let's think about That's why I wrote the book about new paradigms, because I want you to think in new frameworks. It's not 1972 anymore. Black people have to look at everything differently. So many things that you think you believe are true are just not true. So many ways of seeing the world that you were taught are just wrong. So you have to really rethink everything. So if you want a free e-copy of my book, go to drboycewatkins.net. It's called Wealth, Education, Family, and Community, A New Paradigm for Black America. Sorry, scratch that. I'm sorry. That was the name of the forum that we did around the book. The book is actually called It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, A New Paradigm for Black America. Also, if you want to join the next Black Wealth Boot Camp, go to theBlackWealthBootCamp.com. You can get a 25% discount on the tuition by typing in "no slave" as your discount code. That's one word, no slave. So go to theBlackWealthBootCamp.com. Don't forget the THE. And that's it. I'm about to get on out of here, guys. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and don't forget to share this with, if you're on Facebook Live or watching on YouTube, share the link. Share the link with other people that need this information, because I think that we need things to motivate us. I see a lot of people that are depressed and feel frustrated. They feel alone, and my goal is to share these ideas with you so you don't feel like you're alone, so you don't feel like you're crazy. Because sometimes we got family members and friends that just don't get it, and they just make us feel like something's wrong with us because we believe in ourselves, and you can't do that. You got to believe in yourself. So you're doing the right thing. So keep it up, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Peace.